Good morning, and once again, welcome to the On the Whistle podcast. Myself, Courtney Freese, our host. I'm flying solo again, and today I'm talking to coach. The way I'm going to describe you is as the South African Academy coach for everybody, Mr. Farouk Khan. Good morning, sir. Welcome to the On the Whistle podcast. How are you doing?
Good morning, Courtney. I'm doing very well. I hope you are too.
I'm exceptionally well, coach. Excited to be talking to you again. I've been following your progress of the Stars of Africa and the real pathways of success you guys are building for young minds, young footballers in South Africa.
Yeah, well, it's a dream come true, Courtney. We started 20 years ago with this dream, and the dream is beginning to, come through. I mean, I couldn't believe myself. I had to pinch myself the other night with the launch, which I think you've seen, and it was just so fantastic to see so many people appreciating the work that we've done, people that have achieved so much, the likes of Peter Mosimane, Fani Madida, Dr. Kumalo, the list is endless of people that came to honor the Stars of Africa brand. And for me, that meant a lot. Sometimes you sit and you do this work with me day in, day out, you're on the field, and you look and you think, what have I done and who's appreciating the work that I've done? Because there's been a lot of ups, but there's been a few downs as well. The downs are obviously when you have a player that you spent a number of years with, you've invested huge sums of time and money on him, and then you find there's no return on investment. But as I always say, what you don't receive in a financial way, you receive in goodwill. Those parents, those extended families, those lives that you change, those communities that you impact, is so much more beneficial than just to have something in the bank.
Well, coach, I like the fact that you put it that way because you're not just talking about footballers making huge sums of money and becoming elites in household names. You're also talking about good citizens who need to look after their families as well. But we'll come through to that, coach. We'll talk about that very shortly. What I wanted to start off with today is the MTN has started. We've got the big hitters playing each other. But let's look at the PSL league for the upcoming season now. What are your predictions? Who are going to be the challengers? Who are going to be the runners? Who are going to be chasing down Sundowns? Who are in the relegation fight? I just want some thoughts from you on how the league could unfold this season.
Well, I think it's not just going to be cut and dry like we saw in the last couple of seasons where Sundowns were dominant and they won by a landslide. I mean, they were almost the invincibles. If it wasn't for Cape Town City that beat them in their last match, they would have had that label or that title of invincibles, having not been beaten the entire season. But this season, it's going to be a little bit different because they've had a technical change. Rulani Mukwena has now left, and now we have Mangoba and Lidi there with Steve Compella. So their ideas could differ slightly from what Rulani's and obviously what Pizzo's did when he started this process. So it's going to be a little bit different. But in saying that as well, it's just not about the technical team changes. It's also about the fact that clubs like Orlando Pirates have beefed up their squad. The technical team has done tremendously well in sort of implementing a philosophy and style which is pleasing on the eye, as well as having brought some very positive results. And that is important when you build a team for 1 or 2 or 3 seasons. You see at the end of that period, there is something that has been achieved as far as their playing style, their game model, their philosophy, because you can't just continually, have a situation where you, from season to season, you're building. There's never going to be any long-term success. So I think Pirates, for me, are one of those clubs that can compete and that possibly could take Sundowns to the wire. Not forgetting that Kaizer Chiefs have also made some very, very good signings. They've got a completely new technical team. We still have to wait to see what Kaizer Chiefs is about. I think it's not good to judge them on the preseason against Yanga from Tanzania, who beat them very convincingly by 4 goals to 0. I do think that Coach Nabi introduced a lot of young players, and obviously you don't want to read too much into preseason games. And then you have the likes of Cape Town City, who also, were thereabouts. You have the likes of the smaller clubs like Polokwane, who did extremely well yesterday and took Sundowns to the wire, where an own goal decided the outcome. So, there's no easy games this season for that matter. I think everybody's going to come out there guns blazing. I think, to be fair,
yeah, Coach, I think there could have also been a red card for the goalkeeper there yesterday. I don't know if you picked up what.
He was sent off. He was sent off, the goalkeeper,
Yeah.
coming off this line, handling, and then obviously, there was a change, and they managed just.
Down to 10 men. Yes.
Yeah, I think they just managed to beat Polokwane. Polokwane put up a very, very good,
very energetic performance. Yes.
So, but in saying that, I think you and I will realize that you only know what the season holds once you look at the first 5 or 6 games. So I would be very naive to say that there's going to be an outright favorite. But in saying that, we know Sundowns, we know the capabilities, we know their depth in quality. So definitely they're going to be the team to beat this season.
Coach, I'm going to put you on the spot here. Give me your top 3 at the end of the season, and give me your relegation fighting candidates at the end of the season.
Well, it's easier for me to give you the top 3 because I think Sundowns will definitely be my number 1.
Even with the change of Rulani not being there, Coach?
Yes, definitely. I think, Sundowns, as we know, has been in the making for a number of years. From the time Ted Dimitro was there, remember they had the Spanish connection with Johan Cruyff and Ajax. They went down, they got some Ajax expertise to come back here. And then they also employed the Dutch legend, what was his name? The former coach, I forgot his name now. He played for Holland as well. Niskens. Johan Niskens was there. And then subsequently, Pitso Masimani came there, almost being fired. Eventually managed to turn the corner, won the African Cup, the Champions League. And as they say, the rest is history. So this has been a philosophy that has been in the making for, I would say, at least the last 8 to 10 years. So it's not easy to just, suddenly wish them away. They dare to stay, they dare to win silverware, and I think this season will be no exception. Then you have Orlando Pirates, who I think did extremely well last season. They're probably going to hope to go a step further. So they would be my second choice. And then the third choice would be possibly a rejuvenated Kaizer Chiefs. I think Kaizer Chiefs will be up there fighting for that position number 3 this season.
Now,
at the bottom, you're going
we
to have
have
your
some new clubs coming to the league now, Coach. So what do you think? What do you think about the relegation struggle?
Yeah, for the new clubs, it's going to be a bit of a challenge down there. We know that once you get promoted, it's not easy to stay up there. Your first mandate, and I'm sure this is the mandate of every club that has made the step up, is to ensure that they stay off relegation. So yes, definitely they'll have a fight on their hands, but I think it's going to be clearly a case of your smaller clubs fighting. The Richards Bays of this world, the Polokwanes of this world, fighting for survival. You can't say that because they've done well last night, Polokwane, or yesterday afternoon, that they wouldn't be pulled down into that situation, because we see it from season to season that when you don't have the depth and quality, then the possibilities are you could be pulled into that dogfight. We saw Amazulu last season as well, having to, sort of just get themselves out of that battle. We saw Chipa United also a team that I think after the coaching changes have done very, very well. So yeah, I think those are the ones that will definitely be down there fighting for that. But to give you 3, I don't think I could tell you right now who those 3 will be.
Okay, so then let's look at it from a different point of view. Who is a surprise package you want to see this season? Who you think, this could be a team that people will underestimate but will do very well?
For me, Chipa, because of the fact that they have Kopo and they have September there, both young coaches that have come through the ranks. It's always good to have coaches that have cut their teeth at youth development. It's difficult to develop players. I promise you, it's difficult. It's much more difficult than coaching a professional team, because when you develop a player, it's a process that's from one day to the next. You continually have to assess. You continually have to find solutions to producing and building that complete player. So that takes a lot, and that skills that you develop. We saw with Wenger, we saw with Pep Guardiola. They all started down at the bottom and work their way up, and that formative years has made them the coaches they are today. So I think these two coaches, for me, could spring a surprise and give quite a few teams a go for their, for their money, and make sure that they get up there and compete for the top 8 positions. So I think for me, Chippa is definitely a team this season that could surprise a lot of us.
Coach, thank you so much for your insight into the upcoming PSL season. But let's get on to the Stars of Africa. The Stars of Africa, which is a foundation which is very, very close to you, does exceptionally well, produced, correct me if I'm wrong, 7 Bafana players.
Well, there's 8 now. There's 8 people.
Oh, is it 8 now?
Patrick Masangwani from Orlando Pirates, the star of the moment in Orlando Pirates. Patrick Masangwani is a player that...
Oh, I didn't know he was one of your products, Coach.
Well, him and Kabelo Dlamini, and you must remember that him and Kabelo come from the same academy and have had a huge impact at Orlando Pirates. And I think, not to be too boastful, they've been the difference in that Orlando Pirates team this season. And I'm sure many, many people will agree that they've been the sugar in that team that's made all the difference.
So, Coach, tell us, where is the Stars of Africa at this particular point in time? Your academy that's been put together. I remember you said to me you walked out of Sundowns and didn't know what you were going to do. And then you joined the Stars of Africa, created this huge machine that's moving forward. Give us an update on how the project is going.
Well, the project, Courtney, has grown in leaps and bounds. If you can recall, just to go back a little bit, when I left Sundowns, I think it was in 2005, if I'm not mistaken, we started the program that had absolutely nothing. My partner at the time, Nadim Mahmoud, sold his Audi. It was his dream car. He always wanted an Audi Quattro, and he got this car, and we sat down and he said, look, I'm prepared to do anything. So he sold his car to ensure that we had sufficient funds to start this program. I gave up a good job. I mean, a dream come true job. I mean, working for Patrice at the time, he paid us well and he looked after us. And it was a difficult decision to make. But I must say it's a decision that I don't regret making, because from those humble beginnings where we started in a 3-bedroom house, we had about 12 players living in this house. We didn't even have a television for them. They slept on mattresses. We used to have a lady cooking a pot of food every day. They used to live on baked beans and eggs on a daily basis. That was the staple diet. We used to go around looking for fields. We would then train in the public parks at times. We would then jump fences at the old Rao University. Now it's University of Johannesburg, illegally, if I may say so. And the security would come at 6 in the morning and chase us from there. So these were all challenges. We had a bus called the Blackberry, which eventually became the transport of, as I said in the video, players like Tokelo Ranti and them going to the top clubs like Orlando Pirates, when everybody else, including Benny and them, came with their Ferraris. This Blackberry used to take these young players to training and back. So those were the humble beginnings. And, it was tough because I wasn't earning anything, but I believed in this dream. And the joy came when Tokelo signed for Malmo and eventually for, I think it was Bournemouth, in the Premiership. So those were moments that made it all the worth going into this venture. But we've since grown. After the Tokelo Ranti, the May Mashlangu acquisitions that went on and played at top levels, playing for Bafana and the AFCON here in South Africa, and doing so well. We've now, a year ago, to be exact, last year, this time the process started in June, July, August. We had this beginning of this new dream called the Atrium. I was playing golf with a friend of mine, and I said to him, Joe, I want to build an academy, man, that has all the attributes of a world-class academy, proper uh, restaurant facilities, uh, accommodation, gymnasiums, all of this. And he looked at me and he says, "Are you serious?" I said, "Yes." He said, "But I don't have the finances. I don't have the ability to start a project. And with a project like that, you need big money." He says, "Listen, come and see me this afternoon." I said, Where do you want me to see?" He says, "Come, I'll show you something." And he took me to this building called the Atrium. And immediately, Courtney, when I walked in there, we went to the top floor. He said, "You can have this entire floor. And it's huge. It's really huge. It's going to cost you like $50 a square meter." I said, "What? You're joking?" He says, "Yes." I said, "But what am I going to do with all these offices?" Because it was offices before, like a real office building.
Yes.
He said, "Look, we'll break it all down. It's drywalling, we'll break it and we'll build it again. And I will build it for you. And you'll pay me off when you have the finances to do so." So this is where it all started. And we got stuck in, the boys got stuck in, because remember now, we still had the academy in Mayfair West, where we had 60 kids living there already. It wasn't something new. This is where the whole academy started, when we had our first intake of boys. So we didn't do away with this. We have upgraded that facility since. Of course, it's not the same like when we started. We now have proper facilities, study rooms. We have restaurants on this, but it's nowhere close to the Atrium. The Atrium is just something at a different level. And we then advertised, and this year in January, we had our first intake of about 60 kids coming to the Atrium. We then obviously had selected some that were on free bursaries, and the others obviously have to pay for their stay and for their training and for everything else. Those that can afford to do so are welcome to do so. But the ones that are exceptional players that we've scouted, they receive a free bursary. And we also have them now attending the Virgin Active Gym, which we felt was a better option than building a gym at the facility, because at the Virgin Active, besides the fact that they have all the equipment, the swimming pools, the steam rooms, it's also an outing for the kids. Being in school, because we have education here for the 60 kids, so we have homeschooling, where we have teachers at the academy that school these kids, so kids get personal attention as well. So you go through your schooling, but you have a teacher there that will guide you through the process.
Coach, you mind if I ask a question there? Sorry to
yes,
stop.
No
because whenever you talk about education, my ears perk up, because that's my field of work. So here's a scenario. You've got a pupil who's doing exceptionally well on the field, but educationally wise, in his classroom, in his studies, is failing dismally. The factors are not externally. The factors are down to the individual, the pupil himself. How do you manage a case like this? Because some of these youngsters are going to go on to be successful and earn millions. So how do you make the attraction of education important to them?
Well, Courtney, hopefully, God willing, when you visit us, you'll see from the offset the respect and the attitude these kids possess, because every one of them will come to you and greet you by hand, starting with that type of thing. So respect and discipline is a cornerstone of Stars of Africa. So let's say, for example, we have got a player now by the name of KG. He's phenomenal. He's with us since the age of 8. I'm going to send you some videos of him. He's just out of this world. Let's say KG doesn't do well in school. Well, immediately, he's banned from training and matches. He can't come to training. He can't come to matches. Or he can come to matches, but just to watch. His phone is then only given to him because they use the phone actively for research, etc. Is taken away in those times when we give them that opportunity. So he loses those privileges. And I can tell you this, and I'm sure you realize, when you take away a phone from any kid today, it's like taking his life away from him. His life ceases to exist. Not only kids, all of us, we become so dependent on our phones that once you do that, I promise you that kid is going to start making sure that he gets his grades up. And only once the teacher says to us, look, KG has now improved in those specific subjects, do we then give him back those privileges of coming back to training, because they love training, they love playing, and obviously they love their phone. So those are the three things that we use as a tool to ensure that there's discipline. Because just speaking to them, yes, coach, we'll do it, but obviously that's just to get back into the system and to continue as normal. So the teachers are also very hands-on. So they give us an update regularly on the performance of kids. Not that we want them to be A students, because not all footballers are A students, as I'm sure you know, but we want them to at least make sure that they are not failures. And in the past, we've had that. I mean, to be fair, we initially had a group of kids, including me and them, that were not interested in schooling. And to some extent, I blame myself. I was more concerned about their football than, focusing on their education. And when I think back, that is something that I think initially stars failed in. But we've made up for that, and we've realized the importance of education. And now we put education on the same level as football. We say to the parents, you're bringing your kid here. His education is as important, if not more important, than his football. And I think that is something that we hope to improve on moving forward as well.
Coach, I'm just going to come in there again. And something I'm going to share with you, because just this past week, we've done an interview with a former Man United player who actually signed at the same time as Cristiano Ronaldo at Manchester United. And his name is Daniel Nardiello, who spoke about not just football, about life after football, the preparation, and how he prepared himself while he was in Manchester United. So imagine this big machine. At the time he signed, one of the most successful clubs, or the most successful club in the world. But within the system, there were individuals that were giving them advice on how to prepare for life after football, not just educationally, but financially as well. He's gone on to be a financial expert.
Wow.
But he said all those seedlings for after football were planted while he was an athlete at Manchester United.
Absolutely. Fortunately, because of my experience both at youth level and professional football level, I mean, I coached at the professional level for a few years. I picked up a lot of things. What you're saying has been a constant concern for us in South Africa as far as footballers are concerned. They cease to study once they sign a contract. They don't feel it's important. There are exceptions to the rule. There are a lot of players like Stenden Fredericks that have, ensure that he had a good education, like Jimmy Tau, and a number of other players that I know of that have ensured that they get a qualification. I mean, we had a player called Tefo Mashamaiti who was at the launch. He's got a doctorate in political science. And to give you an idea of that, when Tefo came to us, he came to us based on the fact a friend of mine, Bobby Solomons, had taken over Wits University. And they were just relegated by Roger Desai and Eric Tinkler. And they moved on. They brought Bobby in. Bobby got the team promoted. But in the process, Tefo was surplus to requirements. He needed to get in some top names to ensure that he gets promoted. So Tefo was given to me on a loan. Says, Coach, please. I had a Vodacom team. I kept the kid there. He spent a year and a half there. Eventually, we played a friendly against Wits when Bobby was gone. And Tefo was then recruited for Wits because they found that, look, this kid is not the same kid he was 2 years ago. And they said initially that he was going to just play in the Vodacom team, but a month later he was a captain of the first team. But to give you an idea of Tefo, when Tefo was told that he's going to be surplus, he was totally devastated. And the reason he was devastated was he comes from a single parent home. His mom depended on the stipend that Wits was giving him. His mom depended on the fact that they gave him a free study bursary to Wits University. Now, all of that is gone, Courtney. Suddenly, he's now left with nothing. And he comes back to me and he says, Coach, unfortunately, Wits is not taking me back. What am I going to do? I said, okay, look, you can stick him there around in the academy. I'll speak to Nadine. We managed to give him some money towards his education, towards helping his mom at home. And he spent 2 years doing that. You know what is the best thing after all of that? He then got his degree in political science. He then went on to captain Kaizer Chiefs. He then went on to win every award available that season. So those are the fairy tales, and I really appreciate the fact that you're bringing that into this discussion. That how important it is not to just develop the football player, but to develop the complete human being. He is now,
yes,
he was, he was our key speaker at the launch, and I was so. I mean, I could have had so many. I could have had Doctor being the key speaker. I could have had so many other celebrities, but I chose Tefo Mashamaiti because this was a story that the directors in Hollywood would love to make a movie about. Because this is a kid who started from nothing in Polokwane, grew up in the dusty streets, made his way to Johannesburg, got that opportunity, and suddenly it gets taken away. What do? He's 19, he's 20. Do you throw him to the wolves? I could have said, sorry, I can't help you now. I don't have the funds. But I saw something in this boy. His discipline, his work ethic. He couldn't, as tall as Steph is, he couldn't head the ball. So I used to do what I'm sure you used to be experienced to as a player. We used to do repetitive training. He used to stand on one side of the field, another guy kicking the ball long, and he would head back and forward. Just repeated the ball. And he became the most outstanding header of the ball in the PSL. He scored many goals for Kaizer Chiefs during that particular season when they won the league with I think it was with the English coach Baxter. They won the league with him. And Baxter then took him to England after they left, to Sweden after he left Kaizer Chiefs. So I'm mentioning this to you because these skills were taught to me unknowingly at Kaizer Chiefs, at Mamelodi Sundowns, at Santos, where I studied players. I realized, and I took this information back now. Now do you understand, Courtney? I'm not just saying it like somebody who's read a book on psychology. I'm now a psychologist that has been taught, not a qualified psychologist, but a homemade psychologist or a self-made psychologist.
Or organic psychologist. You've got into this.
Yes. Yeah. And I've learned that skill whilst dealing with these players, whilst dealing with players like Jabu Pule, whilst dealing with players like, what's his name, Junior Kani and Skapi Malatsi. Good kids, not interested in education, just football, and eventually they became alcoholics, and eventually they were burnt out. Now Junior is making a comeback. He's now got his own TV programs. He's now an analyst, which I'm glad to see.
Very good analyst as well, coach.
So this is it. I share. My sessions. I promise you, I'm sure at times the kids are a little bit edgy because I would have a session, but I would spend 20 to 30 minutes during that session just giving life skills and just giving them living examples. Not talking about what I heard, but living examples. Like Zondo, I had him in the under-20s. What was he all about? A talent that was rare, that never made it. Like you find so many other talents that have all the potential that could have played in the top leagues, but for one reason, they didn't look at life after football. They didn't realize that they could get injured or things wouldn't work out according to their plans or according to what they thought they would achieve moving forward. So I use this as life skills. But in saying that, hopefully, when we are able to get sponsors on board, which we're working towards, we've just now registered a non-profit organization. We're looking to get funds in. We want to even professionalize the academy to a large extent. We want to get in your sports psychologists, which is common practice around the world. We want to get in the best biokinetists, the best physical trainers. That coupled with what we've done, I think we're going to produce a better player overall. Based on the fact that now you are surrounded with all of this expertise that obviously is going to assist us in producing a better quality, not just a better quality footballer, but a complete human being with all the skills necessary to contribute, not just to himself and his family, but to the broader community and the country as a whole.
Coach, when you talk about football, I can actually feel your passion in this discussion. You're not just talking about developing footballers and adding to the list of 8 Bafana players at the Stars of Africa. You're also talking about, I want to add good individuals to the community so they can go out there, look after each other and contribute in a positive way. But coming back to your academy at the moment, let's look at some of your players. Who do you think are your, at this moment, most gifted players who you really tip to have big futures in the game?
I read a tweet. I'm on Twitter, and I read a tweet I posted in 2017. And this is the first time that Patrick Masangwani went to Portugal. He was just there for a couple of months, and he was in his kit, getting ready to play a match for a second division team at the time. And I tweeted there, watch this space. This boy is going to turn heads. This is one for the future. And now that he's doing so well, somebody retweeted that. And I picked it up on my Twitter and said, wow, I didn't realize at the time that he was going to be as good as he is now. I thought he's going to do well, but I didn't know he's going to be as influential in a big club. And I'm talking Orlando Pirates is probably one of the biggest clubs in South Africa, among the likes of Kaizer Chiefs. They're probably the two biggest clubs in Africa, or amongst. You can't obviously, leave out the Al-Ahlis of this world. They're also huge, huge, huge institutions. But in Africa, I think they stand up. So I'm going to go and tell you now, as we stand now, as Stars of Africa, there's a kid, Michael Williams. His dad used to play for Santos. He played for Birds. Dougie Williams. I don't know if you know Dougie Williams. He was a central midfielder, very physical, strong player. He played in midfield. He was from PE originally.
Yes, I know him. Yes, and okay, yeah. Okay, Michael Williams, right? Okay, so you'll remember the name.
He's got a phenomenal foot on him. He's got an educated foot, not a left foot, a right foot, but he kicks a ball like I've seen very few people kick. And I think that is due to the fact that Dougie, from a very young age, he's the only son of Dougie. Dougie's only got one kid. Him and Mandy's wife pampered this kid to an extent where Dougie coached this kid basically from a very young age. He's been with me now for the last 3 years, and he's grown into a fantastic footballer. He's now 19 years old. I think he's going to really do well moving forward. The other kid is a player by the name of Masha, also very, very good player. Both his parents, when he got to us, are both deaf and dumb. I don't know what is a word for that, but they obviously, he grew up in a household where there was nobody that could speak to him. He got to the academy when he was at, I think, 13 or 14 years old. He's been with us since. He's also 19, fantastic player.
And coach, just let me know his name again.
Masha.
And for our viewers, you saying he's hard of hearing. Is he hard of hearing?
He's fine. He's fine. His mom and his dad both I don't know whether the proper
it's hard of hearing.
Yeah. So hard of hearing. So he's grown up in that household. Came to Stars. Was a bit of an introvert. You can understand a child coming from that background, having to adapt. But today, I mean, I saw something. I was quite amused. There was a video him and his mates made in the room, and they were singing to some song, and they were like really going through the motions. I mean, it's now on TikTok, and I had a good laugh about it. So it just shows how this kid has grown from the time that he come into the academy to where he is presently. And then there's the other kid.
Sorry, I want to jump in here. I want to ask you another question here because you've alluded to this a lot in the conversation we've had so far. You speak about the players, you speak about their abilities, but one of the things you keep touching on is their families. So what effort do the Stars of Africa coaches make to know about the families of these children? Because you spoke about Michael Williams, you spoke about Marsha and his family. You sound like you know them personally. Is that an effort of the academy?
Yes, definitely. I think it's only possible to develop the complete player if you know his background. Often we find coaches coach players. This happens even at premiership level, where the coach that coaches his team doesn't know his player. He doesn't know his player's background. He doesn't know his player's culture. He doesn't know his player's diet. He knows nothing about the player. And when he makes a decision, he does it in the absence of those. And those are very important things. If you don't understand, especially in a country like South Africa, where we have so many different nationalities, etc., if you don't understand, or racial groups, not nationalities, if you don't understand a person's background, if you're dealing with a Zulu boy and he looks down on the ground and speaks to you, he's not being rude, he's not being arrogant, he's showing you respect. But in many cultures, that's not the case. In many cultures, you want him to look you in the eye. Because you say, you're a man, look me in the eye. But in the Zulu culture, you don't look an elderly person or an adult or a coach in the eye, you look down as a mark of respect. Just an example. I had this many years ago at Kaiser Chiefs. We had a player called Simpiwe Mbambo, who eventually went on to play for the first team. He came to me and I interviewed him as a player that would come into the academy in the future. And he constantly looked down, and I realized that this was part of his culture and his tradition. And I respected the fact, which means now you've got to understand your player. And how better to understand your player, coming back to your question, by getting to meet his parents. And we do that very often. Even if a player is living as far as Cape Town, we make an effort to go online, to speak to the parents, to get background, to also assure the parents that we are now the parent here. And we want to work with you to ensure that this kid's future is a bright one. So without that interaction, I think you're fighting a losing battle, because you'll never know what the kid is all about if you don't know what the parents are about. So that is why we do that.
Now, you talk of, well, that's such an admirable quality to have, especially in a football team. We in an academy where you're just looking after the pupils, you're getting to know the families, because as you said, you become the parents. Now, to what extent do the Stars of Africa organization monitor the social media of the players that they currently have in order to ensure that they are keeping themselves safe and also not too prominent online?
We have a person we've employed, my partner Nadim, who's based in Portugal, but he works from Dubai. He does import, export, has employed a marketing company that monitors not only what our players put on social media, but what we say on social media, what I say on social media. We're having an online meeting tomorrow with a group from this company that have been involved with some of the biggest brands in South Africa and abroad. So the difference is they have the inside lane, so we're utilizing them to source sponsorship for the future. But they're also looking, and they've said it, and I feel so humbled when they said it, that, Coach, you are a brand, and we need to take you as a brand out there. And I always think of myself as just Coach Farouk working with the kids. I don't have an ego where that is concerned, but they feel that is not good for the company. I should be more, standing out in the media space, etc., etc. So they're coming in and having a meeting. But to answer your question, yes, we monitor that constantly. We see what is said, because sometimes it can be detrimental to their future. And we know what social media can do. It's good, but it can also be very bad if it's not utilized properly.
Coach, these are all the trappings of football, and listening to you, your organization is entrenched in looking after players on all levels. But I want to move to something you just mentioned now, the focus being on yourself, the focus being, because you haven't just fallen out of a tree here, Coach. You've got a pedigree of being at big clubs under big managers, Ted Dimitri, Pizzo, Gordon. You could even tell me more that you've been around. What would you say to potential investors to consider being part of this journey that Stars of Africa are on, in order to attract them to be part of you guys?
Well, you mentioned people that I was involved with, starting from Ted Dimitri. Mushin Etekral played a huge role. I mean, from Turkey, what he came to Chiefs at, what he brought, what he imparted was immeasurable. People always think about Mushin as that guy who shouts a lot, which he did, but he was such a knowledgeable coach. He was such a great leader to all of us. And obviously there's a lot of other people that I met along the line that played a part. But as far as Stars of Africa is concerned, even if you take Farouk out of the equation, because I think a lot of times when you speak about stars, the focus is on Farouk. There's a bigger picture. There's people behind the scenes that are doing so much work. For example, we have a coach that's worked with us, Hilali Shabani. He was the captain of Burundi. He was the captain the team that beat us in a 23 game some years ago with Brian Beloy and the rest. He played for Swallows in the South African League. He was one of those players that got hit by lightning. I don't know if you recall that incident where Swallows players were hit by lightning.
I remember that incident. It was at Rand Stadium.
The George Koch Stadium.
George Koch Stadium, yes. And that was the very first time Swallows had a Brazilian coach.
Yes, exactly.
But he was the coach was a physiotherapist as well.
Yes, he was a physical trainer, yes.
Yeah. Jacob Tribi was one of the players that was badly injured from the lightning. I remember that game. I was watching it on TV.
So he's been with us for as long as I can remember, from the beginning of Stars of Africa. And besides being a coach, he seconds as a driver at times. When times were bad, when we couldn't afford to have both coaches and drivers, he would second as a driver, he second as a house father. His family lives at the premises in Mayfair where the kids live, so they have his support and his family's support. He's one of those people that will go the extra mile from Monday to Sunday. Sometimes I look at the work these guys put in and I say, wow, they're really committed, you know.
He's now the house master.
Yeah, he's the house master. You have another guy, Zico, Ismail, wonderful guy. He's got, this is a fairy tale I must share with you. He's got 5 kids, 5 sons. So he lives in an area called Rivoli. And Rivoli has become like Cape Town now, where gangsters are rolling. So every other day there's a shooting. Kids are getting shot in the process. People are getting shot in the process. So Zico lived in a house which somebody gave to him. And one day this guy just locked up and said, sorry, man, I need my house back. Now you've got a wife and 5 kids. You don't have a proper job. He's doing sales, tele-sales. He's, you know, he used to work at a bank and now he's got no job. So but he brings his kid to us. We see his kid somewhere in a tournament and we see, yes, this boy can play. We call him Tete. Sure, this boy can score goals and he's 11 years old. And we say, bring the kid in. Now, this guy rocks up. He hasn't got a place to stay and he's bringing this light into training and he's worried about this kid's getting killed. And he now lives with his sister-in-law, who's a drug merchant. And these 5 kids are living with them in this house. And he tells me the story and I say, no, this can't happen. And I'm thinking now, what happens if these kids get killed in the process in this area? And I say, listen, come, I've got a place there which I had as a shop in front of the academy. I'll take out all the goods. We're not running the shop anymore. You can have it. And this guy's face lights up. So it's quite a big shop. You know, he's going to convert into rooms and he's going to make his family live there. And he comes and the man is in tears. And his 2 other kids, the twins, phenomenal players as well. But he doesn't stop there. There's one, they call him Munir. His name is Munir. He's 6 years old. My brother, watch this boy play. Every day when I come to training, this boy is taking free kicks. He's 6 years old. He plays with the under-12s at times. He's just a phenomenon. So I sat down with Zico one day and I said, Zico, today you're going through hard times. You don't have a car. You don't have nothing. You drive the Stars bus. You're up and down working. But God has a plan for you. You see, these kids, they're going to make you and your wife smile one day because God has sent them to us for a purpose. I'm going to do everything in my power to develop, hey, I'm emotional now, to develop these kids to become top players.
Coach, that is such a wonderful story because, you know, it's a difficult situation he's facing, but yet does he know in his house are his lottery tickets, if you could put it that way?
And guaranteed, I can tell you, I've worked with a lot of players. These boys are special. But look how God sent them to us. Like I said to Luther Singh's dad one day, I said, Mr. Singh, I didn't invite your kid here, nor did you decide to bring your kid here. God has brought him to me for a purpose. He could have taken him to Orlando Pirates, who offered you a lot of money. When he was a kid, when he represented the under-12s and the team that went to the World Cup, you could have taken the money. Why didn't you take the money? He says, no, because I realized coming to you was a better option. I said, no, you didn't realize. God put that in your mind. He put that in your heart to say, go to Stars. Stars is nothing compared to Pirates. We're like a drop in the ocean. Why would you not take your kid? It's like Man United are offering you something, but you decided to take him to one English academy there on the corners where they don't even have a proper transport service. The bus is old, is managing to get along. And this is what I'm saying to sponsors is we've not talked it, we've done it without resources. We've existed for 20 years. We've changed lives. We're still changing lives. We're not looking for handouts. We're not looking for charity. We're saying, give us a chance to change more lives and make your brand be a part of that. You know, when I looked at Siad Kolisi, when I saw this gentleman from the UK, meeting him for the first time, yet having sponsored him for so many, it touched my heart to say this man didn't come up front and shout, I'm sponsoring Siad Kolisi, this black kid from the dusty streets in Guguletu. I'm not even in the picture. He doesn't know me, but I'm sponsoring him. And today he's the captain of a team that wins the World Cup. What more can you ask for when you get that sort of gratification? That's what makes us human beings. You know, money, I said to my wife, you know, we don't have a bank balance, but we have a huge bank balance in heaven for helping these kids, for changing lives. We may not have money like other clubs and agents have. They have a lot of bucks. They can do this. But you know what? The good we're doing, there's a bigger picture to this. And she agrees with it. She says, no, you're right. You know, it's not always about what you get back. We feel bad sometimes. I mean, Patrick Masangweni was signed by Orlando Pirates. He went to SuperSport before. We got nothing for the investment. We spent a huge, my partner and myself put a lot of effort in. But it's okay. What we didn't get, we'll get in another way. You know, we'll get in goodwill. And you know what does happen is, what you don't get in money, you get in people like this friend who gave me this facility and decided to pay for all the alterations. That's the payment you get that God gives you in another way. You know, so that's my philosophy. And I think sponsors out there, people there who have money, who have finances, they're getting involved in a program that, yes, football is our key, I would say our key objective in producing with education, but more so in changing lives, in bringing people into communities. I mean, can you imagine these kids going back to Reveille one day and plowing back into that area and giving back to that community and helping those families that are less fortunate? You know, that for me is important. More than just having those nice sports cars and jewelry and clothing. I teach them daily, give back. I say to them, the most important people in your life starts with your parents, your extended family, your community. And when May Matlangu goes to Sakunda, and when he walks into stores and people are all over him, where restaurants don't charge him, where communities are all over this man, where he's now built a home for his grandmother, he's built a home for his sister who didn't have a home, and he's built a home for himself. For me, that is sufficient reward, because now May is an icon. He's a sort of a shining light for other youngsters in his community.
Coach, to the Stars of Africa, to your players at the academy, to your coaches and your housemasters, thank you very much for talking to us today. I know that with those 60 players and the more that are coming on board, they are safe in your hands. And I just know with this type of development, the future for Bafana Bafana and other professional clubs in the country is very positive. Thank you so much for speaking to us today, Coach.
Courtney, it's a pleasure. I'm just going to leave by saying something. There's a player that I took when he was 11 years old. I used to fetch him. This is when I started my coaching career. I fetched him from Diepkloof in Soweto. His name is Tsepo Mashishi. Okay. Eventually, Tsepo Mashishi, he was doing an ad that time on TV. He reminded me the other day. He was a very close. In fact, Shoes Michel loved him. They lived very close by. That's why he got the nickname Shoes. Tsepo Mashishi, then I took him to the School of Excellence in 1994. He went on to represent South Africa as a national team player, as a right fullback at under 17, under 20, became a professional player at Chiefs, went on to Benoni United, went on to Manning Rangers, Maritzburg United. He had a very glittering career. He's currently the marketing person at Puma. He's in charge of all the marketing for Sundowns. He's the brand man there. He gets all the former players like Percy Tau and them all, whoever sponsored by Puma, he looks after them. He's done extremely well. He's coaching our under 14 team. I hope one day God makes it possible for you to see these like this play football. I watched them yesterday. I promise you, it brought a tear to my eye. Fantastic football, similarly to what Ted promoted and what I promote is football. And there's a number of kids. This boy I'm talking about, Tate, whose father was from Rivoli, who's now working at the academy. He scored a brace yesterday. He's phenomenal. And it's not only him. The entire team play a brand of football that is so promising that you see a number of them eventually making it to Bafana. So I had to say that to you before you close this chat. And it just shows from an 11-year-old kid that came to me is now plowing back to other kids and developing the next generation of footballers.
The secret to your success, coach, passing forward, giving forward, making lives and pathways open for others. Once again, Coach Farouk, thank you so much for talking to us on the On the Whistle podcast. And we just want to say to our subscribers, people that watch us, keep subscribing. Follow us on X, formerly Twitter. Follow us on Instagram. Follow us on YouTube. Enjoy your shows. Give us your comments. We are happy to get feedback from you. Coach, have a beautiful day. It's always a pleasure to speak to you.
Nice talking to you, Courtney.